I'm sure all of you have been to the movies, at least most of you have, and I'm sure that you've seen the special effects in those films, and I know that I myself have. From seeing Star Wars Episode 1 and Star Wars Episode 3, and seeing Toy Story for the first time in theaters. What I'd like to talk to you about today is the past, present, and future, and how special effects and technology, and how that's in film today. And I'd like to start off with talking about George Lucas, and then going into James Cameron, his film with Avatar, and then also going into talking about how that affects the current ideas with that, and but also bringing in 3D and digital, the current stuff with that, and then saying how that's going to affect the future of film. First, I'd like to start off with George Lucas, and in terms of the past. And according to the book, The Cinema of George Lucas by Marcus Hearn, he says that, and there are two things I'd like to bring up out of all the stuff I had. I'd like to just bring up two things. When in terms of animation, he was responsible for creating 3 independent companies, computer companies. One of them called DroidWorks, the second one called the Games Group, and the third one called the Graphics Group, which was later renamed Pixar. And Pixar, as you all know, is famous for the Disney films, and that Pixar has worked with such as Monsters, Inc., Toy Story, Cars, and stuff like that nature. And I'd also like to bring up another thing with special effects, and that George Lucas wanted to have some special effects for his movie Star Wars, especially for the Death Star when it first came out. So he asked a friend, John Dykstra, to help him out with that. And in doing that, he formed a company called Industrial Light and Magic. And for those of you who don't know what Industrial Light and Magic is, it's according to Industrial Light and Magic website, they're actually responsible for the Indiana Jones movies, the Star Wars movies, the Back to the Future movies, Poltergeist, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Terminator 2, and Titanic. And they've actually won many awards, and even 15 Academy Awards for all the stuff they've done in the movies. And they've done so much more, I can't list them right now. And with that being said, I'd like to move on to the future of what's happening with the films, and to the current part what's happening with the films with James Cameron. And as I mentioned before, he also did Titanic and Terminator 2. With James Cameron, according to an article by Children of Pandora by Paul Dempsey in Engineering and Technology magazine, he was responsible for a lot of R&D in that film, in Avatar, and he had to come up with new kinds of cameras and motion picture systems, and other tools such as the fusion camera, which I'll talk about in just a second. And he had responsible for, and a lot of the R&D and 3D innovations had to be worked on in-house. And according to, moving on to another source, according to how James Cameron's innovative new 3D tech created by Avatar by Ann Thompson on PopMechanics.com, the fusion camera is described as 2 HD cameras put together 2.5 inches apart to mimic the human vision, so that, and it's mainly used for 3D, but he actually used it on Ghost of the Abyss prior, and he's actually updated it for the movie Avatar. He also worked on a tiny camera that you could put on your head, and they put on their head, and it actually videotaped the actors' motions on their faces, so that it would be very accurate when it went from their face to digital, and it looked very interesting. Like it made it look a lot more realistic. And after that, I also want to bring up the swing camera, which was a swing camera that actually allowed him to use different angles in his films, that filmed his characters at different angles, and then be able to look at those angles later without the actors even being there. And so he could manipulate it and choose different angles that he didn't like, and move it around to film it differently. He also was able to switch from an LCD, or from a lens to an LCD screen, in which you could actually see the actors on the screen that You actually see the actors in the Pandora costumes on the screen, and see the environment that they were in, and it really helped speed up process, and it really must took weeks to do, only took a couple seconds for them to look at that, and it really helped with the innovation in terms of that. And now I'd like to move into how with the 3D and digital and how that affected everything. In an article by Thank You Avatar by Kimberly R. Griffin on proavmagazine.com, which is an article in 2010, 8,007 digital projectors in North America. There are 8,007 digital projectors in North America. And also there's a popular thing that came out recently that's been in theaters recently called Real D. And in order for Real D to work, according to this article, you need a special kind of digital projector and a special kind of screen to make it work. And so that's important for me to bring up later. And in terms of, and then I'm going to go to another article called Are 3D Movies Ready for Their Close-Up by author Josh Quitter on Times.com. They talk about how 3D is takes in 3 times more intake rather than 2D, and that the head of DreamWorks is betting his future on 3D. And James Cameron is betting his future on, it said if he could have done Titanic in 3D, he would have. And he's betting all of his future movies on 3D. And now that's gone to the future with an article by Brave New World by Josh Roddingberg on entertainmentweekly.com, in which he said he could actually mimic make the camera seem indistinguishable, like between human and non-human. So he could do a complete digital human even if he wanted to. He could make Clint Eastwood look the way he did in 1975, which brings up the idea if people could actually look the way he could bring back people from the dead, like Marilyn Monroe and James Cameron, which would be really interesting, like in the movie Tron with Jeff Bridges. And what does that say about the future of digital and cameras? Well, that because of DreamWorks and James Cameron's need for all this, that it's probably going to push and be more commonplace, and it's going to be also going to be taking on different forms, such as being able to do it without 3D glasses and using designer glasses for the 3D to actually see it in theaters, and also have USB content you could take home with you to plug it in to be able to see USB content through your glasses at home. And in conclusion, Lucas has revolutionized things with industries like Pixar and Industrial Light and Magic, and his groundbreaking special effects with Avatar and James Cameron, and special effects techniques and ideas with 3D and digital shaping the movie industry. And James Cameron influencing the future, and with 3D and digital, it's the commonplace, and they're going to change in commonplace and form. And that's a past, present, and future. This has been a fun journey for me, and I hope it has been for you. Thank you for your time.